We are live.
Thank you, Mrs. DeGraw. We'll go ahead and call our meeting to order. And welcome everyone. Thank you for coming. We will start with Mrs. Perkins, if you would lead us in the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Mrs. Perkins. The floor will be open for a motion to approve the agenda.
Madam Chair, I make a motion we approve the agenda.
Is there a second? Those in favor? Any opposed? That motion passes. Thank you. The floor will be open for a motion to approve the minutes from the previous meeting.
Madam Chair, I just want to.
Is there a second?
I second that.
Those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion passes. Mr. Williams, your report.
I just noticed we need to push publish on that.
Oh, on your computer in your
Yeah.
office so that you can access that.
Yes,
Okay.
we'll get this pulled up here on that. I may have forgot to attach the superintendent report, right? I have that. We have a little bit of difficulty having that load. Of course, it happens in your life. I go to Plan B here in just a second. Let me I go to Plan B and pull it up on my.
Oh, hold on. Let me try one more thing.
Okay.
It's almost there.
Move the internet strength is scroll down and see if the YouTube live holds up. Fresh thing. There it is. Thank you, Mrs. DeGraw, for getting that put on there and apologize to the board for those that needed to wait and go ahead, Madam Chair, I'll get to go with that. So first, and this was worth the wait. Don't you think, Willie, that this was worth the wait to have this one up there?
Oh, it shows that I was there.
So superintendent, I wanted to make sure that we did recognize Mr. Schmidt for being over at Day on the Hill. Thank you for doing that with your regional school board. And we did have the Where's Waldo, the Where's Willie one right here. So I think you were right there, right? That's
Right
right.
in the front.
Where we had you. So and you're also going to Boise this week, is that right?
I'm gonna leave this evening and meetings will be tomorrow and Saturday morning.
Okay, so travel safe. I was able to go with Mrs. DeGraw to the legislative roadshow week and a half ago. That was in Idaho Falls. We had a legislative update. We do have some slides in our discussion area, discussion section of the agenda. We'll talk more on that. And then next week, Mrs. Rigby, myself, and Mrs. DeGraw will be going to the Education Law Conference over in Boise. So just a few things for us, departments. Mrs. Ward in the food service, she's been doing some grants, renewing the fresh fruits and vegetables. And I'd like to thank her, the efforts of getting more free and reduced applications. Those applications have been coming in. And so we'll do a better job next year getting those earlier, but that's something that really helps out the food service department, but also with our federal programs. Our maintenance and grounds are working on summer projects and planning for those. And also spring sports have been a nightmare this year, getting the track and softball field ready. I'd like to thank our maintenance and our athletic director. They've worked together with also a lot of volunteer time from community members. So thank you for everyone's efforts in that. Mr. Reyna has been working on getting the vape detectors in. Right now, the progress on the vape detectors is that all the technology lines are laid in, and now it's time to coordinate with maintenance to go around and make sure we drill them into the right spots. That's where they're at with that. Athletics, we've had so many different reschedules of events and venues, and you'll see coming up that we weren't going to host district tournaments for softball, but now we are because other venues don't have their field ready. So a lot of different changes with that in our schools right now. A lot of testing has been going on from third grade on up with our ISATs. Our juniors took the SAT last week, and then next month we'll be starting the Idaho Reading Indicator. We'll be excited to get that information back to see what our strengths are and areas that we can work and continue to improve. Just that by way of information, our migrant summer school is going to be June 12th to the 29th, Monday through Thursday. And here was a fun shout out from the Idaho School Boards Association with our last month in reading month for Tarleton Elementary, and also Hamer joined in as well. But this picture is just of Tarleton, that the kids met their goals of reading 3,000 books. And this was posted on the Idaho School Board's Facebook page. And so that was part of their Feel Good Friday section on Way to Go Tarleton Elementary. A lot of the teachers had guest readers that came into the different classrooms. I don't know, did anybody get solicited from the school board to go on? Okay, I'm gonna do a better job next year of making sure they get the school board members in. I was able to go read books several times again, and I love doing that with the kids. And also our preschool and kindergarten screener for both Tarleton and Hamer was on the 18th. They had it, and they'll have another one on the 25th. So if there's anybody watching this, parents of incoming students can contact Joan Sidaway at Tarleton Elementary to get an appointment. And this is for kids going into kindergarten, but also preschool. It gives us a chance to just do a screen on certain things they're hearing, their language, find voters. So Officer Mike Miller from the DARE program was able to set up a really neat assembly for our 5th grade through 8th grade students. And my kids that went to it really enjoyed it. So here's a picture of an assistant coach from the Kansas City Chiefs. And he also brought his Super Bowl ring to show it off as well. But he spoke to the students about 5 lessons: think outside the box, be humble, sacrifice, don't quit, and be a leader. And you recognize with Mr. Ellett here, he is an amputee, he only has one arm. And he's been very successful throughout his life, even in high school sports after he lost his arm. And is very motivational with being able to speak that. So
Just a funny aside, my grandson wanted to get an autograph. He didn't have anything to write on, so he took his Broncos cup. And the guy said, seriously?
Denver Broncos cup for him to sign.
Get it.
He did it. Good sense of humor, so, but he gave different examples in his own life, and so a really good assembly, and thanks to Officer Mike Miller for the DARE program for being able to organize that, make that happen. Our secondary school, Mr. Guimar, arranged for a higher education tour, and so there were 8 colleges that brought representatives here to the district office. And the students, there were 37 juniors and 6 seniors who attended. And the representatives from the schools gave a very high compliment to our West Jefferson students, saying that our kids were very respectful, kind, open and good dialogue. And so they were pleased to do that. And thank you to our students and the parents helping raise your kids, that we were able to get that positive report from our kids during that college activity. Senior project showcase just happened here on Monday, and just here in the ALC gym, and you can see that there's a lot of different projects from small business, job shadowing, to organizing sports camps, etc. So the kids were able to share their projects. Were any of the board members able to make it to that? So I didn't. I'll tell you the truth. So I was superintendent. I think Shane, you should know a lot of this. I didn't really know what was happening until I saw it getting set up for. So I think in the future, this would be a great one for us to be able to send out on our app, make sure we get it on Facebook to get more people here. So that will be some feedback. Because I'm glad you guys were the table. I was like,
Yeah.
all right. And so it was one of those things that we had a good turnout for. Spring sports, as I mentioned before, we did not have a baseball team, but we do have 45 athletes participate in high school track, which is a lot higher than we've had in a lot of the years. And the football team is probably ranked #1 in our district and doing really well. FCCLA students recently competed at state, and we have 4 students here that qualified for nationals. And here's a picture of those students over in Boise. Thanks to Mrs. Robertson, our advisor. She does a great job with that. And so the students were successful. I think it's the last couple of years, I know FFA usually has their jackets, but the other groups also have their jackets. So the FCCLA has their red jackets as well. High school leadership put on a glow in the dark dance under the black lights at Panther Den. And the feedback is that this was a really exciting dance. So what they did is the kids were given shirts there that had a glow in the dark aspect to it, and so they had different things, and kids really loved it. So it's not just for athletics that those black lights are being shined on there, just for the few basketball players. This is, I think, the 3rd activity that we've had in there where all students can do that. So what a fun thing for those kids. National Honor Society had their induction ceremony on April 14th. Mrs. Horakami and the BPAs, but the school newspaper, and I have one up here. Some of you guys can see. Isn't that cool? The size of that. So it's thanks to Mrs. Horakami and all the students. And you can see they had a family feud activity, like an assembly. So they had an assembly they brought in, and one guess which teacher was asked to be Steve Harvey. Think of one with the mustache. So yeah, so Mr. Bird was the host of it. And so it was really good. So they had a lot of fun things on there, but thanks to the students that are doing these in part of their classes, and thanks to Ms. Horakami. Very well done on that newspaper.
Shane, I'm gonna take this to the ISBA meeting
Excellent.
and show it to the other members, show what we're doing and maybe give them some ideas.
Thank you. That'd be awesome. FFA, speaking of Mr. Bird, that's a good segue from Steve Harvey. That's so 12 of our FFA members went to the state convention with Mr. Bird. 4 of them were able to get their FFA degree. Our farm business management team placed second. Max Smith was second overall as an individual. And the horse judging team placed 8th. Looks like we have Bailey Cherry on that one as well. So congratulations to the FFA students. And this is the quote from Mr. Bird. He said, "This is my 42nd year taking students from West Jefferson." I just turned 44, by the way. I'll be clear. Wow. This is my 42nd year students from West Jefferson, the state FFA convention. Sadly, it'll be my last, as I will retire from teaching this year. I've been fortunate over the years to have taken exceptional students from our school to compete and earn their state degree. It's been an honor to have experienced this in my lifetime, and I'm proud to call them my team. So thank you, Mr. Bird, and that. Coming up, so many different things that I almost need another whole page. Like the last 4 weeks of school is just crazy. So distinguished young women, it's on Saturday. Mr. West Jefferson's going to be the following Wednesday. High school prom is going to be that next Saturday. Our softball we are hosting, like I mentioned earlier. We weren't going to, but Mr. Hadley said I'll take it on and get the fields ready. So we'll be hosting May 5th, 8th, and 10th. Also, there might be people driving by the school today. There's actually teams out playing. They're not our West Jefferson teams. So other teams have contacted us to come and play here just to get their games in. We will also be hosting district track on May 10th and 11th. So that will be with the teams in the nuclear conference. Our Booster Club Awards nights Monday, May 15th. State athletics, tracks in Boise, softballs in Pocatello. That's the Friday and Saturday of that week. Our high school drama is doing the program High School Musical. So from Disney. So that is going to be Monday, May 22nd. They're going to have a 4 o'clock and a 7 o'clock. Thursday, May 25th at 7 o'clock, and Friday, the 26th at 4 and 7. So get your tickets early. The word on the street is that this is an exceptional show. The kids are doing amazing. So what's that? High School Musical is the name of it. Yeah, so it's a Disney one. Our high school graduation will be May 24th. The last day of school, May 25th. So it's coming quick, Madam Chair. And so that's an overview. If there's any other questions, thanks. I'll pause for those.
I think our high school rodeo team got bumped. They were supposed to have their rodeo here this weekend, and for whatever reason, I don't know if the fairground is still under snow, but they are going to be at Challis.
Oh,
So, yeah. Dang it.
if I haven't had any updates, so if there's any rodeo clubbers out there, just give me some pictures, give me an update. Be happy to put it on here.
Super. All right. Thank you, Mr. Williams. Mr. Grau, did we have any public comment?
No.
All right. The floor will be open for a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Also move.
And a second, I'll second that. Any discussion? Those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? That motion passes. Thank you. Great. Our first action item.
We have a couple of items here on this purchase approval that will require board decision. So the first one, purchase proposal number 1. I've got some tongue twisters in there, didn't I? Each year we do buy a certain number of Chromebooks just to kind of sift out the old, bring in the new. So Mr. Reyna has asked that we could purchase 74 Chromebooks for the combined price with shipping of $30,000. We do that. This is part of the budget, not going anywhere else. It's something that we planned to do. I did ask him what his plan was with that. He said, right now, as Chromebooks get to be about 6 years old, they need to be changed out as they don't update, or Google changes all their updates and things like that. He did mention that the company that we buy them from will purchase them back. I don't know how much that, he didn't give me a price on that, but at least that's better than just having them sit on the shelf somewhere. So we will be able to send those old ones back. Maybe they refurbish them, recycle them, I'm not sure what they'll do with them with that. And so that's what we have with the first proposal. I don't have any other information on that, unless you guys have questions.
Are we not sending Chromebooks with the seniors as they graduate?
They do.
We are.
They do. The seniors will be able to take their Chromebooks. Our eighth graders going into next year already have the Chromebook that they will need. And so that takes care of the high school. So these will be infused wherever those other ones need to be replaced.
Any questions? If not, the chair will entertain a motion to approve. $74 Chromebook. Madam Chair, excellent. Is there a second? Second. Those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion passes. Thank you.
Right, the second part for a proposal is a district vehicle. Our 2005 Pontiac Montana van. We've pushed it to the limit. We've got as much out of that beauty as we can. So the district acquired it in 2010. Mrs. DeGraw and I were trying to figure out, what it was purchased for back then. But we got it with 70,000 miles, has 171,000 miles. So we've had it in the district for 13 years. Since my time as superintendent, it really hasn't been reliable to go anywhere outside of the Idaho Falls region. I heard horror stories about it when I first got hired as superintendent, about hubcaps falling off and doors not opening and things like that. So, but it's been a good, I think, local runner. We put in the budget 53,000. I understand that there might be more than one need this year, because I've also was a little concerned about possibly with some of our plow trucks and things like that, but we've been able to get through here. So just because something is budgeted doesn't mean it has to be all spent. A budget is just a plan. And so we do have in our current budget that amount available of 53,000. So right now, while researching like what used vehicles go for, it's different now than it was even 4 years ago. Because the difference between trying to find a used vehicle with low miles is not as, I guess, cost effective as it used to be. So some of the things that we found, the vans with over 60,000, which would be kind of in the ballpark of the same type of van that we purchased last time, anywhere between 18 and 25,000 for something that has, I would say mid-range high miles. I could be looking at that. Vans with less than 40,000 are in the 35 to 38,000, which I think 4 years ago that would have been about 20, you know what I mean? And it's way different. So the new vans that could be considered in the same range are from 36 to 42, which are almost the same as a used one. So I'm not asking, like discussion wise, there's a couple different things that I'm looking. One, I'm asking for permission to go out and look for a vehicle to purchase, and I'm kind of looking for a price range. I want you guys to set my parameters on what you want me to, if you give me a price range, then I'll know what I'm looking for. I'll know what kind of vehicle that I should be able to go get.
Mr. Williams, I suggest that we should maybe look at one with under 40,000 miles. The more miles you get on them, then you gotta buy tires and brakes and
Yeah.
just, it's just the way it is.
Would you be opposed to a new one, looking at that where,
No. I think that would be fine.
I would have never thought about buying it, like growing up and even the last 3 or 4 years, you're always taught never buy new.
Brand new vehicle.
If you buy it,
There's a certain amount of depreciation to them,
But used cars are just bananas for some.
Yeah.
so I don't know, but like I said, you guys decide what you want to do and I will.
So is that 53,000 that was budgeted, is it needed for anything else?
It's in our plant facilities. That's where it is in the budget.
Yeah, I don't see another need at this exact moment and I've been holding off as long as I think I could on this van. We're starting to see as of recent with the different activities and things going on, there's times where we're just reimbursing staff members take their own cars.
I don't think we should be in a vehicle that isn't safe.
I agree.
So what do you do with the old van? Do you
Yeah.
trade it in?
Are we gonna surplus that one out probably?
The van could either be surplus, or it could be used as a runner for maintenance or the bus department. And just keep it on, just keep it local, just
Yep.
anything here in the district. Those are things that it could, like, it shouldn't have a problem running to Hamer and back, you know, things like
Is there
that.
something that's currently being used for that purpose as a rental?
Just their pickup truck
I mean, yeah,
or one of our other vehicles.
How many vehicles do we have as a district?
that's a good question. I know the ones that we use here at the district office, I think of three, you know, I think of the Suburban, the Kia, and of course the Montana. But you have the driver's ed car, you have the two pickups that have the plows on them. And then they have a couple of older ones that have been around that the bus drivers will sometimes use. The bus driver comes in, they'll take the bus back over to the bus barn and then drive home in the district car. And so this bus, or excuse me, this van could do that. We could try to sell it. We can,
And it wouldn't impact insurance too much.
So when you say the word van, do you mean something that hauls?
good
things?
question. when I say van, I'm thinking minivan.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm not thinking like a 12 to 15 passenger van. I want a minivan.
Probably more like a 6-passenger van, maybe.
8.
8, 6 or 8.
The other one.
Yeah. But the minivans have higher safety ratings than the big 15 passenger vans. If we, that could be a discussion as I'm looking, well, if we're looking for something to transport, 12 to 15 kids, maybe we look at purchasing a small school bus. Like, those are safer. I know our insurance companies recommend that more as well, but this would be mostly for transporting staff members, but occasionally clubs do use the vehicles they take their students. That was a good question, because that could be misunderstood.
With a new vehicle, that usually comes with a warranty too.
Yeah,
Factor.
I know some companies have 100,000 miles or a certain amount of years. That would be built into it.
I think if you look, can you see something with 18, 20, something like Willie said, under 40?
Mhm.
You might look at it to see what problems it has if it can turn in.
Sometimes
And then if you can't
there's
find anything,
sometimes there's lease returns too.
you can't find anything, then I suggest we go with it. New one.
One other factor is some of the minivans now are hybrid in this price range, which would get you about 10 miles more to the gallon in the vehicle, just as another factor that we could consider.
Well, that's the part where we're looking at right now is those ones with 20,000 miles are only about $3,000 cheaper than buying one with 0 miles. So for $3,000 to $4,000 more, you actually get the whole new vehicle with the whole entire warranty. So that's what you're looking at. Put a price on there, or you can say, no, keep the keep the Pontiac if you want to keep that. That's what the board wants me to do. Or just figure out a price range on there if you want me to stay under.
I think you should look at what's available for new. To see what's out there. Like Hannah says, let's try to get something with a warranty.
Would 38 be enough? So I'm looking at the lower mileage, the 35 to 38, and then there were some of those new ones that we saw from 36 to 42. Maybe if I call a school bus or call somebody, hopefully the the car salesmen aren't out there watching this and give us strategy.
Inundated.
I just think you use good sense. You
Yeah.
see what you can get and
Get just the best deal for the money, probably, huh?
you have a range, or you have up to 42 to decide what is the best for our needs.
Okay.
If you find something that's a steal.
Yeah,
Chair will entertain a motion to approve the purchase proposal and if applicable.
The green
Budget
budget.
amount up to $42,000.
$42,000, yeah.
Madam Chair, I so moved.
Yeah, and I'll second that, Madam Chair.
Those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion passed. Thank you. Moving right along.
So the second one is some straightforward. The annual budget process, we have the hearing date, we'd like to set. We would also like to have the budget hearing and the fee increase hearing date combined on the same one, so take care of all of that. So there will be a few things, with fees, mostly with our food service, I believe, when they're looking at their prices with the inflation that exceed the 5%. And so, this will, the proposed date would be Thursday, June 15th. That's the date of our June board meeting, and we would hold this from 9 o'clock to 10 o'clock before the meeting on that. So, and it just needs to have a vote from the board to officially set that date.
The chair will entertain a motion to approve the budget hearing and fee hearing for Thursday, June 15th, 2023, starting at 9 a.m.
Madam Chair, I so move.
Is there a second? I second that. Those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion passes. Thank you. Future negotiations.
Okay, another straightforward one. This is just annually, for Idaho code, this school board has the opportunity to formally, enter in negotiations with our educators of West Jefferson School District. And this is one where, these negotiations will be for compensation on salary and benefits. And again, this will be one that, through a vote with this, and I will reach out to Mr. Hall from the Educators of West Jefferson and indicate that our board has approved us to enter into negotiations.
The chair will entertain a motion to approve entering into negotiations for the 23-24 school year with the educators of West Jefferson. Madam Chair, is there a second?
Second.
Those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion passes.
Is there anybody who would like to be part of that?
Did it last year. Did you? I don't mind doing it if nobody else wants to.
Okay, looks like you have two people. So I will let you guys know when I will, meet with Mr. Hall separate times, share the information, and when we have our formal meetings, we'll make sure that we're all apprised of it.
All right. Key message review. Next, online and blended school options.
Okay, this is exciting. Definitely something that we've been talking about over the last month for sure after the PA meeting. But the why behind this, I think sometimes when we have discussions about ideas on approaches, people always ask, why are you doing this, or why do you want to do that? And so in our PA meeting at the beginning of the month, I talked about ways to strengthen our online abilities here at school. And since that time, we've had even other further things that have solidified this thought on saying this might be really needed at this time. And the first two is that at the last legislative session, the funding formula, how we were funded here at the school, is moving from enrollment back to ADA, average daily attendance. that's a big deal. I know that people just turn around and say, oh, things are changing. If it's going to have a major impact, that means that student attendance is going to be governing how many teachers we're able to hire. The other thing is there's a lot more political pressure for school choice options, vouchers, things like that. And so with this environment that we're in, I believe that we should be exploring how to strengthen our online options here at the school. Currently here at the school, we already do offer online options, but it's a blended approach. It means that students here at West Jefferson, and then they take either make up credits or they have advanced credits through online. And so the proposal that I'm looking at on wanting to build, saying this is the offering that we have, is 3 different options: an in-person option, an online, and a blended. We are already doing the blended, but we need to figure out a way to strengthen this. And so I mentioned here that we've talked about this, been gathering information. I sent an email out to all the staff on March 28th. I have received feedback from members of each of these groups. When I receive feedback, I recognize that it's going to not be perfect in any situation. And so what's really helpful is when people come and say, this is going to impact me, can we do it this way? And I had a teacher that I met with yesterday in my office, came in and said, these are the classes that I generally taught. This is how a move to different things would impact it, and we were able to figure things out. And so I wouldn't have known about that issue or how to figure that out without that teacher coming. So we've been getting feedback. What I would like to do right here, the reason why I wanted to have this as a discussion with an action item available for the board, is moving towards fully online. If we're really going to do it, that will impact a couple policies and procedures that we have. Policies that this board would have to govern and be a part of. Specifically graduation requirements. The question would come up, well, if we offered an online class or online diploma for students, do we have those students, require those students to have the exact same credits as the students that are attending West Jefferson? So are the in-person students graduation requirements going to be the same as online or blended? Those are the questions that we have to look at. So, for example, our in-person students, I believe they require 63 credits to graduate from West Jefferson. So the question that we have to ask ourselves is, if we go fully online, are we going to require all online students to have 63 credits? One of the reasons why we have 63 credits is because we are on a trimester system where students are able to acquire that many. Typically, students who are on online classes, they only need to meet the state minimum, which is 46 credits, because those are set up on semesters. So that brings into the question, so not only just graduation requirements, do we need to look at calendars and schedules? If we're really going to move to online, then we also have to consider calendars and schedules. The other part is, if we are going to online, we need to talk about budgets and talk about, so how would this be budgeted for? Which teachers, which current staff members? Are we going to have to hire some new people to come in and work with these programs, or can we do it with our current staff? And are there different schedules and calendars that lend itself better for that? So there's a lot to discuss on this,
Yes,
isn't there?
a lot.
Yeah.
I
And
didn't realize the impact,
and so we could try to do it without changing anything with schedules, but that conversation needs to take place. To say, these are, like, if we did this, this would be the outcome. If we did this, this would be the outcome. So going back to the why, I believe we are in a situation where providing an online option is going to allow more students to potentially come to West Jefferson. We will have a better chance of enrolling a student fully online then we will have a better chance of having parents move into our district and bring their kids here. And that's just because of the physical limitations that we have with lack of housing, being a rural school. This will give us an option to, at least in my initial goal is to at least be able to help us retain what we are currently offering here at the school. And so what I'm saying is we rely on student attendance, ADA, that we used to be enrollment for the last 2 years, but that attendance generates a support unit. That support unit basically generates enough funding for a teacher. Not each teacher individually, but the average of all teachers together. So there's so many complications with this. So our best way to ensure that we don't have to cut back programs in the future would be 2 things, I think. One is we get more kids to move in. And if they can't move in, how else can we go get them? An online option would be able for us to go get them. The other thing is by strengthening our blended. I'm even thinking of kids who have started school here at West Jefferson, and they may live on the outskirts of the boundaries of our district. And they're like, man, I like coming out there, but it's just so far to drive. This would allow them to potentially have some online classes that they do at home and then show up for school later on in the day, which might help. But then we have them on our records as a full-time West Jefferson student. And so it provides flexibility for parents doing a lot of different things. So that's where I'm at. I guess what I wanted this board is, this is not to vote to say, yep, go ahead and do this. Later in our agenda, we need to have a work meeting where we discuss this for a couple of hours in a setting where we're visiting about it, going over the pros and cons. I bring in Mr. Guimar, who can talk about the online options and how that would work with graduation requirements. I've been working with potential calendars and schedules, just ready to go either way, one way or the other. And then budgets on what that would look like and what some of these programs cost us. Can we do the advanced opportunities at times? You know, a lot of different things into play. And I know that they're like, we look at this and say, well, why now? Why can't we just talk about this for a year, 2 years? I think we can have enough information to make a decision on what we need to do. But this will be your chance to say, Mr. Williams, don't worry about it. Let it go. I don't, let's not even explore this. And then that would allow me to just not worry about setting up any of those work meetings or that forward. So I've talked a little bit just about the overview, shared the why, and let you guys decide what you want to do. I'll pause for questions if you have those.
One question I have is, so you really think that to do online learning, you can't do it in a trimester as well as you can do it in a semester?
The biggest thing that I'm seeing right now is a trimester gives 18 credits per student right now. And so that means our in-person learning would be 63 credits.
Right.
And so we could offer, there are some schools that do that, but they also have dedicated staff 100% to their online. So Bonneville is one example. Bonneville is on trimesters. The kids that are in person have more credits, but they have an online school, but they have a person who is just dedicated to the online school. I don't think they're trying to use their online school the same way with their in-person. So could it work? Yes, but that is one thing that I see might hinder our ability to recruit people to the online, because I either need to hire a person to probably watch that more, because and when I say we need to strengthen our program, we do offer IDLA, and we do offer a program called Edgenuity that we started working with this year. But right now, we really don't have any supervisor that's just over the top of that and owning that. I've reached out to Christy Scott, who has taught online classes, has an administrative degree. And told her if this is the direction that we go, I would like her to oversee the online portion and help us strengthen that blended. That's the piece I think we're missing, is we haven't had somebody that owns that as a district that can follow through. And so, but to go back to the main question, could we do it both ways? We could, but it doesn't streamline everything as much as it could.
I don't want to ask a lot of questions. I'll save them for next Friday.
Or you can just give everybody a teaser. You can.
But yeah, but one other question I have that just comes to the top of my mind is, will it be a struggle for some of our, just say the general population, to go a semester in, say, a class that's really a struggle? Or,
Like math,
yeah, like math,
for math to be from August clear until December instead of it ending in November.
right, yeah.
Well, to answer that, so math and English right now, not every single year, but math is offered all 3 trimesters. So what we've done right now with our current trimester system is we've kind of blended the two to leave the trimester system in place. So English is taught in 2 out of the 4 years all year round. And math is taught for the required classes all year round.
Just seems like that breakup, though. And maybe not.
So for math and English, there won't be any difference in that. I know
It
that,
works better with your IDLA classes. Because your IDLA classes are different, on a different schedule than your trimester. So you have students who are starting with the class, but it
They-
doesn't end at the
Until
same time that the trimester does. And
Yeah.
so then they're sitting there for a month and a half in the library.
But what I envisioned they would do would be to take a semester and a half of IDLA and then take another semester and a half. Of
If they had it planned out, if they were
If they
new
had
to
it
it, then they
planned.
wouldn't know.
Wouldn't they have their year
And
planned out?
so it can work on that. So on our current trimester system, the students that take a semester IDLA class, they do it for a semester and a half and then they take another one. But if we were trying to set up our system to match IDLA better,
yeah.
I think that gives people more flexibility. Because then they're ending their semester at the same time the in-person ends their semester. And so that
It should be a lively discussion.
should be a great discussion, I think. So I don't know about, lively as to.
A good discussion, yeah, I agree.
And so and when I pull up the calendar here on the other discussion, I'll follow back up with some of the ideas, because I talked about the feedback that I've been getting. The project-based CTE classes, and this is what it was discussed in the emails that went,
Yeah.
the project-based CTE classes, which aren't all CTE classes, and it's usually the capstone or the main hands-on one. They say that this is really going to eliminate our ability to provide this type of instruction. I asked this because I talked to the principal at Shelley High School, and they chose to go to a 7-period semester. And I asked him about that, and he says, yeah, those teachers that taught the project-based ones were worried about it. But he said it didn't destroy the program, it didn't end, didn't self-destruct. It had just different I don't want to say complications, but people adjust and adapt. And there's some ideas that have been brought up after that feedback was given that could be looked at. It could be looked at and seen. Definitely I don't want to do something that's going to be like, hey, let's do this to destroy a program. That's not the intention. But again, it goes back to, that's an issue that we have to deal with. Does anybody else have a better idea on addressing the main issue? Like, that's the whole part, like, we can get caught up in all these other discussions, but if you have Ryrie who does a 7-period semester, Firth who does a 7-period semester, West Side who does a 7-period semester, those are all schools that are our size, all farming schools, all schools that value their CTE and their, that. If that was the case, I'd be hearing from those superintendents and say, whoa, there's a problem. And I'm sure when the different programs talk, if you had the choice to have a longer class period, absolutely you'd want it. But there's ways that people are doing it without it. So that's,
How many less students do we have right now versus this time last year?
19.
And I'm guessing that we ask as they're leaving.
There's a lot of different reasons. You know, I know some of it's just family situations. I think some of them may have stayed on if we could have had an online component. If they,
So you're saying online possibly from elementary through high school?
right now, K-2 is not a place where we're strong with that. 3 through 12 would be our option. 6 through 12 would be the sweet spot.
Okay.
But 3 through 5 will have an option. I believe with our kindergarten through 2nd grade, we have other options of self-directed learner that we talked about with our board where they passed that law a couple of years ago, which would mean the principal, the teacher, and the parent would sit down and make a plan with what that looks like for the student, whether they come in for 1 or 2 times a week and then they work on things at home. That's something that I think would be applicable for the younger ones, but the self-directed learner, the students would need to meet certain academic benchmarks to be eligible for that.
Okay.
So a student that struggled, we would encourage them to stay here.
So would you institute a quarter plan? You would,
I would,
so we'll talk about that.
yeah, I'll show you, like, that's a good question. I'll show you here. There's no reason why we can't.
Okay.
We don't have to wait for that, especially if somebody's just tuning in just for this information,
Mhm.
like.
True.
Are you comfortable then with a motion to keep researching it and
Keep researching it.
Doesn't hurt to look into it.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean it's going to happen, but.
Because especially after next week's meeting, we'll be able to have an idea of where it's at. But after next week's meeting, if that's looking like things could fall into place, a calendar would need to be done by May. We would need to have those things in place just to make those plans for the next school year.
I think next Friday will be a good indicator. Teachers will be able to come in and talk to us, give us.
Invite parents.
Yeah, invite parents to come in and
And if parents have questions, call me, come and talk to me. Like, I will show everything that I'm looking at. With the wide, maybe you have different ideas on how we can increase our ADA that doesn't touch the semesters. 'Cause what I really, going back to my initial statement, what I really worry about is if we don't do anything at all, we're just gonna be reactionary to anything that's happening. And this is at least a chance, and maybe it won't work, I don't wanna make it put down into your guys' mind. But maybe the online thing won't get the students that we get. If not, well, at least we tried. It's not like people are still moving in here, it's not like we're rejecting kids from coming, so.
Okay. Let's scroll down the motion.
Yeah, just direct me to continue exploring this.
The chair will entertain a motion to approve to direct the superintendent to continue exploring, researching these 3 different in-person, online, and blended learning options.
Yeah.
How's that?
that's good. I so move, Madam Chair.
Is there a second?
I second that.
Those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion passes. Thank you.
But we will get ready for next Friday then. So this last one, I don't have an action item pulled up, but House Bill 163, this is a new bill. It doesn't formally come in until July 1st. But this is the parents' rights bill. And if I go to survey, this is gonna be one of the new things with this, so. So the parent rights bill is one that Superintendent Debbie Critchfield sponsored. These are all things that we've done normally, with the exception of this. This is gonna be a new piece to it. So before any public school employee administers any non-curricular related student survey. So a well-being survey or health screening to any student, the employee must first obtain consent from the school superintendent. So that's the first part. And if the consent of any such survey, questionnaire, or the screen regards any student's sexuality, sex, religion, personal political beliefs, mental or psychological problems, personal family information, or individual family financial information, the public school shall provide the survey, questionnaire, or the screen. Hold on, I got lost, sorry.
Down one line.
So, and obtain this last part, and obtain the permission of the parent or legal guardian. So usually what's happened in the past is when a survey was done like this, and that was the survey that we talked about a couple months ago in January, they give the parents an opt-out form. And so that means the school will send home a form that says, opt out if you don't want your student in this. And if the student forgets the permission slip and doesn't bring it back, then the school could still give it because we provided that opt-out form. They chose not to opt out. This is saying, if you do have any of that, you have to opt in. So only those that have the signature can do it. Can you see that difference in that one? And so we did receive as a district, we do have, there's two different surveys. One is from Eastern Idaho Public Health, and I didn't put this on here. And those came as a way of our vaping detectors and everything that we had from Eastern Idaho Public Health. And we gave that survey during the vape assemblies. And so those are ones that we've given. I'm not even sure if the vaping and tobacco survey falls under this. Would you guys? I guess that's because if we're looking at, it's not that, it's not that, it's not that.
Psychological problems.
Personal family information.
Would it be part of well-being?
See, that's like, that's when you're looking at the definitions of that. So this is the survey information that we were given, and it's from the Idaho Department of Health and Welfare. It would take place until May 12th. With that, the questions that they would have is, let's see if they had any questions on here. So this right here is a perfect example of if you do not want your child to complete the survey, fill that out. I know vaping. So this one, past 12 months, if you've seen that.
Because it's a health survey.
It's a health survey. So the law, House Bill 163, it's not law till July. We could go forward with this, or maybe I don't see anything by law, but at the same time, these agencies that they're hoping to use these to guide stuff. I know with our so I don't know, like maybe the board think it's changed, but that's what we hired you for, is to know. Like I said, I don't know if this survey falls under that.
So if it does, then what do we?
So let's say if it does, right now, we could still just send home the opt-out forms as currently in law.
But they've already taken it.
No, this
They,
one.
they have not taken this
Oh,
one.
they haven't taken this one?
No,
Oh, I thought that's what you
no,
said.
they had a,
January.
they had another one from Eastern Idaho Public Health
Okay.
as part of the vape
So-
assemblies
So
that
they
we
haven't
did
taken, I'd get the signature.
before they,
Confirmation? Yeah. Why not?
one way to start out, or maybe we just don't participate in it this year.
Well, I think you should keep it before the students that they know that we're interested in it. That's something
Yeah,
we value that idea. Not vaping.
but there's no legal requirement to do this. I just think, one of the reasons I wanted to bring it up is the board could say,
Okay, as
Let's-
a parent, would you want to know that they were having this? Before they have it? Would you want to
Maybe-
know that they were taking?
me
this
personally on this one. About tobacco and vaping, probably not, but if it was asking about. If it was asking about any of these items on House Bill. Like about student sexuality, sex, religion, personal beliefs, those, I think are 100%. But. Maybe we could even table this one here, because I don't know if there even has to be action from the board, I just wanted to get a feel for what your guys' thoughts were on this.
I guess I just always want to know. I would have wanted to know. Anything they're doing with the survey.
And that's what House Bill 163, that's actually gonna strengthen it, and I've talked with. Our administration about ways that we can make sure, talked with Mrs. DeGraw and Mrs. Hall. On ways that we can have a place at the beginning of our website, say, these are all the things that are part of this bill, these are the things that you should know. So,
I should think it would, help. Parents feel like they're involved in the things that are going on. Any survey they take. You just never know. Who would care?
well, with this specific survey. If the board's okay with me not putting this out right now and just not participating in it, I would be okay with, like, I would do that. I just don't. Sometimes when they say, here's a survey, why aren't you doing that? To me, it helps to know if the board's like, giving direction, or you supposed to say,
Place that's sponsoring it, will this be helpful for them to know this?
I'm sure it will be.
Department of Health. to know.
I think they're trying to see how much information you are really getting from outside sources. How much do they really know? And that will help them better gear their prevention tactics
Because
moving forward.
we've had Project Filter come in and provides assemblies for us.
And it's anonymous.
It's anonymous.
There's no information asked about the student that's responding.
But if schools choose not to participate, it's voluntary. There are no consequences for the schools or students if they do not participate. But I could have made that decision in my office, been like, hey, but I kind of want you guys to be especially, I do, is that okay?
Yeah,
There's a board here.
I like to know these things.
So that's kind of where I'm at, if you want me to.
It says right there, parental consent is not required. They would know that law now, wouldn't they?
Well, no,
Maybe
because
It's
this,
not in law yet.
it's not in law yet,
Oh,
It's effective July 1.
okay.
yeah.
All right, well, then give the survey right away.
So I don't have an action item on that, I just wanted to see, so, you guys want to, you could either. You could table it, you could tell me not to do it, or you could tell me to do it. If you table it, then I'm gonna make my own choice on what we do with my administration.
We'll be looking for a motion.
How's that? Madam Chair, I move that we table this discussion about the Idaho Youth Aid and Tobacco Survey.
Was there a second?
I'll second that. Let's table it.
Those in
Talk
favor?
about it later. Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right, that motion passes. Thank you. Okay, for discussion items, do you want to
Yeah, let's,
move around a
we,
little?
we've invited, Mr. Demar, and if we can just jump right down to the STEM diploma, we can have him.
Let's do that.
Yeah, you wanna, you can, don't you wanna like just get in front of the camera?
No, it's okay. So recently, I just came across a couple of diplomas that we can offer. This will be one of two that I'm hoping to present. The second one will come a little bit later. I just need a little bit more time to research it and how it can work in our school. But this one, this is pretty much just saying that the legislation and the big thing behind this is another way for students to get scholarships. But you can see on here that when the student, we can designate, and that link, I don't know if we want to
I
click
can
on that
try it.
link at the very bottom.
Yeah,
We'll let you go there.
there we go.
So then if you go to the very bottom of that section, it just says that in order to have a stamp, I can't remember how it says. That each school district needs to, I can't read it.
So each school district and public charter school may create a diploma with a special STEM designation for students who meet the requirement of this section.
Yep, and so there you can see that what they need is they've got 8 credits in mathematics, 8 credits in science, and then 5 credits in the student's choice of any of those STEM related areas. And so a lot of students, they meet the mathematics requirement, but then here for our graduation requirements, it's just like kind of what the state board of education has. And so you have your physical science, your biology, or in other words, as the state says, your lab sciences. And then you've got 2 other elective credits. And so, for example, this year's seniors, all of them meet that just with the 6, but there are only 5 that have a couple more credits outside of what's already required to meet that 8 credits in science. And then there's only 5 that meet the additional credits in science, technology, engineering, or mathematics. And so this really is a way for us to just kind of recognize students that are taking classes that are STEM based. And so we've got like a special seal or stamp that they'll send to us from the state that we'll be able to put on diplomas. I think it'd be neat if there's a way that we could even get cords or something that they could walk with. Because, you know, this year we've got 34, 35 students and 5 of them did that. And so in some way we could honor them that way. But just wanted to present that to you to see if it's something that I could continue looking forward or continue to show to students and then also let them know. Just today, a parent was in, I was talking with them and they saw this and they're like, how can we know? And so what I've done is in Power School, I'm working on getting together a way, just like their graduation plan progress. I'll just build a section in Power School to where they'll be able to see if they qualify or not for the STEM diploma and how many credits they have in each of the areas. And so then we'll just be able to quickly see who does qualify for that.
So when you say STEM diploma, so they keep the actual regular diploma and then
that's
those,
just a seal.
the little seals would be put on the outside of it to,
Yep.
to verify that they have met at least these things.
Yep.
So I don't believe there's anything extra we would have to do with policy then. As
And
long
those
as
are free from the state.
the state sends it to us, right? So talk about more of the scholarship money on what they might.
Yeah, so with this, there's a $3,000 scholarship that when students, they have to apply for it. Now it's only awarded to 10 students in the state of Idaho. And so with that, you've got to have them, so they already will meet the requirements if they're going to college. If they're going, or like it says here, a career technical school, if they've got a 3.0, and then it's in any of those fields listed. And so they'll meet those requirements. And then outside of that, it's just the state will determine who the 10 recipients are. But $3,000 is a good amount of money to offer students and let them know about it. And so, you know, this parent, they're like, you know, I wish I would have known that, and I was like, I do too. You know, I wish that when you became a counselor, there was just something that gave you all of the scholarship and you could just put it out there, but they were then just talking about, well, with this school, you know, where do you see the scholarships and all of that, and so I showed them that list. And then they just said, pull up another school, so we pulled up another school and we had a page versus the you don't even have to scroll down on some other schools, and so I think this is just another way of just showing that we are trying to get out as much scholarship money as we can. You just gotta know how to research and go through some of them as well.
Where's the scholarship money come from? Is it from the state or is it corporations that?
Yeah, for this one,
Donate to
from
the
what I
programs?
read, it's from the state.
It's from the state of Idaho, okay?
So they've got something budgeted where it comes from the state.
Okay. Well, I just wanted Mr. Guimard to be able to come in and present that. He had me come over to his office a couple weeks ago. He's like, hey, look what we can do from this Idaho code. So I wanted the board to be aware of that and told him to keep going. So any other questions for Mr. Guimard?
Does it look like there's many students that are interested in
Well, so I
doing
guess
this STEM
from my first step was just make sure it was something that I can,
relate to them?
yeah. And so after talking with Mr. Williams, and then now talking with you, now I'll get with those students and we'll talk about it. And then also,
have 5 kids.
so we've got 5,
That's great.
and then for next year, hopefully we'll have more as
Yeah.
well.
Thank you, Mr. Guimard.
Yep, thank you, appreciate it.
Is that the only thing?
Mr. Guimard, do you want to stick around for this next one? You can sit down.
Sure.
Unless, if you're pulled to a meeting or anything, you can go, but I was gonna, we had a discussion about online options and maybe there'll be a question that comes up that the board might ask about scheduling and things that.
Oh,
we
okay.
have.
Do you want to go back to calendar then?
Yeah,
Right.
yeah. Okay, so 5.1, Madam
Yes.
Chair. So this one is connected into our action item about the online and blended school options. I'm actually gonna pull this one up, just in case I need to go back and forth between it. So when we did discuss how this could impact, one of the impacts that could happen is to a calendar depending on which way district goes. And that's why I did develop a semester draft calendar and a trimester one, just so that we have a chance to look at both of those. And so a couple of things I did it on our draft calendar from a couple months ago. There's one major change or 2 major changes on this one. The first one would be the week of spring break has been moved from the 18th to the 25th, just pushing it back a week. On a trimester, it could go back to the other side one way or another, but there's a reason why I wanted to move it there. And the second major thing would be to move the last day of school 1 week later. I know it is after Memorial Day, not as popular, but that does a couple of things for us. What that does is it allows us to not have Fridays as a day on our calendar this year. Remember, we had a couple of those Fridays before spring break, and our attendance on those days are usually lower. And as we're moving back to ADA with attendance, it's going to be better to have a calendar that's more cut and dry, so parents will be able to plan and make sure kids are here. And so the second thing would be a recommendation to extend the day by 15 minutes in Hamer and 10 minutes at Terraton. What that will do is it gives me 2 extra days built in for snow days. If we would have had that built in this year, we wouldn't be making up the days that we had.
So that doesn't show on here.
So, yeah, so it doesn't show the difference. And so if you're looking at the trimester here, it was this week and I bumped it down. And it was this week and I bumped it down. So that's the one change from the last one. And then
You're talking about the trimester.
The trimester. not even the semesters yet. And then the other thing would be to extend the day by 15 minutes in Hamer. And then that way the Hamer fourth grade wouldn't have to make up their other days on those. Just trying to make sure we have built in enough time for that.
Okay.
So that does it. The other thing that you see on this trimester one that I'm looking at is the professional days are going to be on these orange days. And so I'm just gonna label it a teacher work day / professional development day. So for those orange ones, there's no school for kids. It's gonna be professional development and work days. Then I do have 3 tutoring days, each of those built in right before the end of each trimester. Is what we'll have. So then I'll pull up the semester draft calendar. They both have 144 days when you look at both of the calendars. So they have an equal amount of days. They both start at the same time, they end the same time. They both have 2 weeks of harvest. One of the things that you'll see that's different in the semester draft calendar is that I do have an end of a quarter. So one of the weaknesses of a 7-period semester, and this has been brought up in the discussion and with the feedback, is that it can limit elective class options. So if I'm a student and I am taking 7 classes in a day, and I'm going to take English, and I'm going to take math, and I'm going to take science, and I'm going to take history. There's 4 of my days. Then I have 3 left. If I take a release time for seminary, that leaves me with two electives. And so if these electives were the whole time, you say you're only going to get 4 electives each year. Our elective classes, unless they are required for graduation, there's no reason why we can't think about elective classes differently as an opportunity for kids to have a chance to explore and see what they like. And so this was brought to my attention that maybe this could happen. And so at the quarter or midterm mark of the semester, however you look at it, that elective classes based on those that the teacher wants to teach that way, you could teach that class from the beginning of school and teach that elective class to end on November 2nd. And so junior high, for example, I can use my son, for example. First try, he took flight time from Mr. Hall. So instead of taking flight time from the beginning of the semester all the way to January 18th, that doesn't make sense to take flight time that long. Halfway through that semester, he could transfer over and take what do you take from self-defense class for Mr. Hall, and then you take self-defense class for the rest of that. So really, instead of them only getting 2, they get potentially 4. Students who don't take seminary would actually have a chance to have 6 electives during that time instead of just that. And so when you're looking at the elective options, if we were only allowing them to say, nope, 1 elective for the whole semester, and that's all you can get, absolutely, that would be a bad idea. If you can do this and you have the option, and when you're looking at the difference between where we're at with the number of days in a quarter, there are 36 days in that first quarter. And if you compare that to the trimesters, the ending on the 21st, it's 46 days. And so we're not talking about a core class. We're talking about an elective class where students have a chance to see if they like that. And so Mr. Guimar has put a survey out to the staff members. And this is something that we will share next Friday in more detail about these are the classes that could work on a quarter. Because that's really going back to the why. Again, I know I'm kind of jumping back to the action item here. going back to the why, what are we trying to solve? Or what I feel is the issue is our ADA and our attendance. But I also don't want to go against our mission statement of having opportunities for kids. I think that this, at least these discussions that we've had have created these ideas thus far. And I'm hoping that through our work meeting and other meetings that come forward, are we going to be able to promise and say, everything will be exactly the same? No, it's not. There'll be some things that will be different and it might not work for everybody. So I can see you deep in thought.
I am. Can you think of any classes that wouldn't fit, electives that wouldn't fit in an order?
Wouldn't fit in a quarter, an elective one. I think it all just depends on what the teacher's goals are and what their curriculum is. So some might need just a little bit extra time to get through the material and driver's ed will be pushing it.
Driver's ed would be pushing it, so you'd have to take that both times.
Probably, well,
I don't know if you'd have to determine if you were doing just your class hours during class or if you did thrives during class.
you have to have 30 hours of instruction for that class specifically, and then 6 hours behind the wheel and 6 hours of observation, so.
So that's gonna be a semester.
Well, not quite, because,
How many days?
so on that,
There's 36 days.
That would be enough for the hours.
you get the hours in and you could actually require attendance, which actually would boost us on other things. Because going back here, as I've been thinking about, okay, what are some of the things that are gonna change? Potentially graduation requirements, calendars, schedules. So if the schedule is a trimester versus semester, I'm also looking at the time of how that works. And it's tricky at West Jefferson because we share, on this campus, we share one lunchroom. And what one lunchroom makes that window tighter of when kids can come into lunch when they can't. And so I've been playing with a couple of different options of how long classes would be, and I can give an approximate that there'd be 4 classes before lunch and 3 classes after lunch. The classes approximately would be 63 minutes, 64 minutes, 63 minutes, 64 minutes. Those are only 4 minutes shorter than our classes that we're currently offering right now, 4 or 5 minutes shorter than the classes we have.
Well, do they have 6 right now?
They do have 6, and they're 69 minutes long. And so you'd have 63, 64, 63, 64. And then as I researched other schools, Firth, all of their classes are 55 minutes. West Sides are like 45 minutes and they have an advisory class in there. I don't like that. I'm not saying that's. But then after lunch, you'd have 3 more classes of 55 minutes, 55 minutes, 55 minutes. And that would get us to 4 o'clock. And so all of those built in with the different calendars. Let's see, which one is this one? This is the trimester. Going back to this. So there's potential as we're looking at how can kids choose different things that they want to do. And we have so many different, like, we're finding out that it's not just the school that people are coming into, because if people want to go on vacation, they go on vacation and they don't care. If it's time to go to Hawaii, we're going to Hawaii and I'm pulling the kids out for a week. I really don't care what's going on. But if we have online options that we can send online assignments with kids, we can count them as if they're here, if they're completing those things online. Yes, we can.
Seriously?
Yes, we can.
Even though they're absent and they're a regular attender?
Yes,
Oh, that's really good.
yes. It's what we want. Like, that's how we want to build our product for
So
people.
if you're
We can.
homesick, you can be counted
You
here.
could. You could. There's a lot of things that come into play with that. There's a lot of things that come into play with that. Biggest thing is, what are our teachers offering? You know,
Right.
if our teachers are willing to do that, then we can do that.
Cause I asked about that a long time ago when we got that capability
Yeah.
of going into the homes, and I didn't think we were.
No, we're moving towards that, and we're getting, like I said, especially if we have an employee who can oversee that and help make sure that those things are on board. That then, so I'm trying to paint the picture of what we could get to, but it is a different way of seeing things and different way of looking at it than what we've been used to. The other thing is I gave you the example, I know I'm really visual when I talk with my hands, I apologize, Dennis, you're probably like, gang signs, gang.
Janice and I are.
So if you have your four classes in the beginning, and they're 63 plus minutes each, not too much different. Some of those classes, yeah, it still is gonna be hard because it's still not 69 minutes, but it's also not the 55 minutes that some other schools. Now you're saying, well, don't give me any of the classes in the afternoon. One option, if you're thinking of what could happen, so let's say I'm taking a welding class that does require a lot of welding time. I go and I have to put my coveralls on and get into everything. If it works in the schedule, if Mr. Guimar can work his magic, I know.
No pressure.
I felt sweating right now. Potentially, we could look at in the afternoon on those 3 classes in the afternoon. You take 2 classes back to back of that elective, only for the 1 quarter. And once that quarter is over, then you're free to take 2 other electives somewhere else on that. And so if we're looking up here at the time, I want to take an advanced welding class and I want to build a trailer. And I take the class here, I'm going to be done here at this time. But if we can build that in the schedule, and this would be probably for kids who are their senior year, usually junior or senior year, they've completed a lot of their other assignments, which opens up more time for them, because they're not going to have to do math all year long every single year, unless they want to. They have to meet the requirements to have the 6 credits in their high school, which would be at the very least 3 years of time.
So with that math, right now, they just take 2.
No, they take 3.
They take 3.
Yeah, so they're taking math all year round.
So math and English are both on.
And English are all year round. I know we have a couple of grade levels that it's only 2. I believe freshman and sophomore, right? 9th and 10th. So that would be a change for the 9th and 10th graders to take it all year round. The other one is our science would be taught all year round. And I'm really curious on how our science ISAT, this is the first year that we will get results for the science ISAT. And as we look at what's our responsibility as a board is to look at the whole educational process. It's not just the electives classes, it's also balancing it with one. And sometimes you think, well, if I only like the core subjects, the core 4 subjects, that means I hate these guys. And if I like these guys, that's not how it works. We like them all. And there's sometimes that there's going to be a little bit of give and take with pros and cons with the schedules. If we stayed on a trimester, I think one of the things we would have to consider is, do we now push science for 3 trimesters apart? Because that's really essentially what we've done with our trimesters is we recognized, I think it was 3 or 4 years ago, we recognized that our kids on the trimester were not performing as well on math because they were only getting it 2 out of the 3 trimesters.
And just for clarification for people listening, if you don't have math that first trimester, and here you come in and take this test and you haven't had any math, you're gonna do
We
poorly.
could do poorly on the ISAT.
So same with science. If you're not taking science first try, and then you get the ISAT test and you're not familiar with any of that because you haven't had that class.
Yes, this is going to allow us to look at the science requirement or when the results come in. As a school, we're not just going to get an overall score, but if they come in low, which I'm anticipating them to be lower than what we would like. We take those and we say, so where are they low at? And we can break that down and say, in this area, in this area, in this area, go back and look at our curriculum and say, this is what needs to be taught. In a semester setting, now we teach that science all year round, and the science teachers aren't feeling like, I need to just cram this all into 2 trimesters. I can push it out. And so that would be a pro for that core subject.
So would you hold your core
classes more in the morning?
I don't know.
Or- I don't think you could fit them all in, but
Yeah.
some are getting shorted on time. If
They-
you go off
They
the
all
63,
meet the require, it is, but you can make that
So-
same for anybody with the
True.
55. Unless we want to go to 5 o'clock or 4:20.
down.
Okay. Cause I saw the same thing, that's just gonna be what happens. The teachers with 55 minutes will have fewer time over the space of that semester.
Oh, you're giving, you're right,
Yeah,
the trade-off.
yeah, but that's why I said it's different, there's different ways to look at it. I'll go through this semester one on why I made some of those other changes. So again, just a reminder, I wanted to bump the day back to 4 o'clock because I was looking at schedules to say we need to have at least, 55 minutes. It bumps it back to 4 o'clock, and it also gives us more time for snow days as well. The other thing is, so as we're going through, school would start on the 21st. You'd have one Friday, but it's a 4-day week still, and it's early in the year, and just after Labor Day, that would be the only one where kids are required to work. Teacher workday / PD. Harvest break. Teacher workday, and I put parent check-in here, and that is one thing where on the parent teacher conference, this is gonna be something I want to discuss more in depth on Friday. The value of parent teacher conference, I think, is different at the different levels. We have very good attendance at parent teacher conference at the elementary, and it's sparse at the high school.
Yeah, there's like nobody in the halls.
Very, very sparse. And so, but I also know that just because we schedule a parent teacher conference on a certain day doesn't mean that a parent is always going to make it that day. And sometimes there's even things where there's a teacher who's gone on that day. So if we have a teacher who, for whatever reason, can't be there on a scheduled parent teacher conference day, we ask them to reach out and schedule things for those that want to do it. So I thought, well, if we didn't have a scheduled parent teacher conference day, and with the tools that we are rolling out here this next week with communication directly from parents to teachers through the Rooms app, that we just have 2 different work days that are set aside as parent check-in days. So those are days that we are requiring our teachers to check in with parents, set up appointments with them. So that way, it's not just to come whenever you want to, I'm gonna set up an appointment. But I also want parents to know that on any of these orange days throughout the whole year, that if they want to meet with a teacher, they can set up a time to meet with a teacher. If we're conducting a training or something going on, yeah, we don't want teachers to be gone, but if a parent comes in and says, I have a schedule, can I pull them out? What a great thing to do. That's actually would be more productive for a parent to come in earlier than say, parent teacher conference is here in another 3 weeks or even 4 weeks. Then they come in and say, my kid's been struggling about this and this and this. Well, why didn't you tell me 4 weeks ago? And so I think we have the tools to not do that, but I'm curious on what people think. Do we need to schedule a parent teacher conference, or could this work? Again, so the first quarter would end there, go all the way through the first trimester. I grew up in a trimester. So if we move to semesters, then I'll have to change that vocabulary. So the first semester would end on the 18th. They would have a work day right after that. You start the second semester there. And then the next quarter, the quarter of that second semester would end on the 21st prior to spring break. When I first started playing with this, we had our spring break on the 18th through the 22nd. And I didn't like having a spring break and then 4 days to end the block of quarter. I call them a block or a quarter in my mind. That's how I see that. And so that's why the spring break was moved back. But then that gives us the final you know, the busy time, but that's the final block or quarter of that time there. And you can have the quarters that are broken down. I do have 73 days in the first semester and 71 in the second. That gives us the 144 days. So that's kind of, you can see how everything kind of just, it works together with the way the thought process comes. This wasn't something that I had all lined out in a magical plan 2 months ago, but it's been coming through the conversations and building it along the way. And I look forward to next Friday when we get a chance to meet Mr. Guimar. So next Friday, we're having a board meeting. We can have stuff available for graduation requirements, just to present to the board on what it would look like if we stayed. You weren't in here at the time when I was talking about, Mrs. Perkins asked, could we do an online format and stay on trimesters? And we know schools that do. Was it Bonneville that you looked at? That does. But they have different graduation requirements for each. And they also have the staff to completely govern the online. And so yeah, we can always try, just depends on where we're at. So
The reason I was thinking that is I'm thinking, we just went 4-day and we kind of said several years ago, we'd keep the calendar the way it was for 3 years, and maybe that 3 years is gone, but it just seemed to me like a lot of changes were happening, and maybe people would be upset by that or not. But I just was thinking if we could kind of ease into it, if we decide to go that way, we could do it that way for a while and see how it works. You know, if it doesn't, but it just seemed fast.
And I think the work meeting will be great.
Yeah.
For them.
for sure.
Okay. We're ready to move to first reading policy 7000 series.
Are there any other questions on the calendars or suggestions to move anything? Like if you see something,
Just a lot to think about, to come back with next Friday. I think.
Wow, that's what I mean.
so I believe that everything that we had, they didn't take anything that we had out. So everything that we put in stayed. With the exception, the only thing that came back is there were some that we took out that they said needed to go back in,
Oh, really?
some legal
Okay.
requirements.
Okay.
And so the required ones that they have didn't change. And so with that, I don't really know if this is just more of a formality of saying,
Back to first reading.
we're back to the first reading with the edits from them, but they've been legally vetted. Yes, you could say that is a way to look at that.
I like that 7000 financial series is a nightmare that will not go away. I thought we were done with it,
Here it is back.
right?
At least for one more, I guess.
Okay, required policy inclusion from legislation.
All right, so we talked a little bit about with House Bill 163 already. But I wanted to have on here, this is from the post legislative for Superintendent Libby Richfield. She went over every single different one. One is a financial literacy component. And this is one that will be required for next year. It is required for graduation, but it can be integrated into existing economics courses. And so the intent is to have financial literacy for all high school students focused on real world personal finance. We're already doing that in our economics classes.
But didn't we also feel like we should, and wasn't Sherry Bell getting some kind of
Yes.
class, right?
Yep.
Didn't we feel like they should have it in a class?
And I talked with her yesterday and we were visiting about that. And so as we get more of the direction from the state on the financial literacy, we'll just make sure that those are taught within the classes. So we're meeting those high school requirements.
You don't feel like we need to create a
No.
new financial literacy class.
No, we could, again, I maybe should have closed everything. Mrs. Bell and I, we were talking about the semesters, trimesters, seeing the different things as, from her perspective as the math department chair. And there's pros and cons both ways. And one thing that could happen with the financial literacy is, it could come into and be a block class or a quarter class if you wanted it to be. So those are things that type of schedule allows us to be able to offer that. And so, but we also might be able to infuse everything into the existing economics classes. So
So we would have economics as a required class.
it is already.
It is already.
Yeah,
Okay.
it is already. And that economics would need to be an entire semester class, so the required electives like health would need to be a full one. Speech would be a full one, this would be a full one, so that's. for that. We talked about the parental notification. I'm gonna go fast through these.
What
It's gonna
I
be
just want to see the letters.
Yep, 163 parental notification, we already talked about that one.
Oh, I have a question on that.
This one,
Does
this one
that,
here.
does that mean money for everybody?
This one here, they do have some one-time initial capital projects. And we want to look at this to see if we need to, maybe we can expand our greenhouse. That would be something that we could apply to these CTE grants. So basically, they're just grants and one-time capital projects. Maybe they'd say, give us a couple million and let us build a whole new. I don't know.
There you go. Go into business.
So that's what they're talking about with that one. Okay.
So do they have any particular increments of money?
They didn't go
They
into
don't,
details.
just-
They just said it passed and it helps expand CTE in grade 7 through 12. And there's $45 million for one-time capital projects. So there's things that we can look into. House Bill 281, seclusion and restraint. This is just saying that you can't lock kids up or restrain them for punishment. If it's part of their individualized special ed plan, then you're following those plans as appropriate. One thing we will look into doing is to continue to train our individuals, but send more staff to specific training for seclusion and restraint. So that's what we'll need to do that in response to this. The governor's launch, this one is just the $8,000 for the career workforce technical. We talked about that.
How's that gonna work? You're gonna give that to each kid? Like, here's your check.
What do you remember on that, Mrs. Jigraw?
So I know one of the qualifications is before you're in college, it has to be a state college. And so along with pretty much every single bill that's been approved, they don't know the details on it yet. They're still. The State Department is trying to decipher what each bill now means for the school district.
But that's supposed to go into effect starting next year.
All of these in some shape or form go into effect July 1. This might have, some of them have slow rollouts, but it just depends on what bill it is.
Yep.
Okay.
Empowering parents, this was one that's already been in, they just approved the $30 million funding. What this is the empowering parents is the application where parents can go apply for technology or computers or things like that to help with school related costs at home.
So for homeschoolers.
Yeah, it could work for that, but it also it's open, but it's open to public. I know we have some employees who applied for this and were able to utilize funds to purchase technology for their kids to work on school stuff at home.
Even though they go to school
Even
during the day.
though they go to
So
school.
that they can utilize it in the evening to work on homework and stuff.
Yeah. So that's where that, I think that initially that came about with the COVID
Online
money,
learning.
the COVID money, the online. Career exploration, this is one where We already do provide a career exploration unit in the junior high in 8th grade. This strengthens it a little bit more. And so one of the things that we can do with this, as I've gone to my different meetings and listened to what some other superintendents may or may not be doing. One thing with this, IDLA offers courses with this that the district can purchase, but if we did that with all of our junior high students and had them take an IDLA class, then we could guarantee that every single student knew what IDLA is, how they can access, how they can use that to get advanced credits. And so that's something that we will look at with this one here. Teacher apprenticeship just says that with certain teachers who are doing student teaching, if the district chooses to, they can pay them an apprenticeship. I need to look into that to see what that looks like.
And is there money for that?
No,
So we have to find it.
it allows you to do it legally, but go find your own money. Open enrollment, this doesn't really impact us any differently. They just basically are saying that because we already have an open enrollment policy and already are doing it. I guess there were some districts out there that didn't have an open enrollment policy. And so this is just ensuring that everybody has that enrollment policy. We can, if we want to, or feel the need to as a board, we can identify what it means to be full in a grade level or a department or things like that. And so that's something that we have the right to say, we can't bring anybody else in because it's full. Trustee elections, if like at this last the rezoning, so through the last census, if the census would have put 2 of you in one zone area, that doesn't mean you have to quit automatically. You get to finish out the remainder of your term. So it just clarifies that. Charter schools get revolving loans. This is just saying that you can have silent public prayer as long as in school. This one's here to protect employees, isn't it?
Well, this allows employees to have personal prayer or students to
Engage in prayer.
engage in prayer at school. It protects their right to do that.
In God we trust. This is if we have a donated plaque that says in God we trust, it says we must find a place to display it. Or else we could go purchase our own and just hang them up. So maybe we find ones that we like, go out and purchase and put them up. That will meet House Bill 202.
There are size restrictions on this so that people cannot, give you a 20 by 20 sign that you have to hang. There are size restrictions within the building.
So is this for outside of the building
Yeah.
shows
Inside.
or inside? It's
Like
just
the
for
plaque.
inside,
Yeah.
just the plaque for the inside?
Yeah. So then we have the 228 abstinence definition. This just defines if you are going to use these terms in your sex education. We don't teach, we have the health classes and the biology class, but we don't have a sex education class. Bathroom facilities, the one that does indicate that bathrooms must be used by their designated sex at birth. If not, we must have a place for them, and we could have teacher rooms or other places like that available. And so this here is really the state legislature taking on a strong stance and gives cover for the districts to be able to follow that. So that's what it is. The property tax and March levy. So the March levy date has been eliminated. The district will get a certain amount of money from this property tax stuff that we just pay right towards our supplemental levy and bond levy. And then so that's just how it works. And we have a dinosaur.
A state
It's a state dinosaur. So, and I'm not going to talk about the failed legislation because I really don't.
It's not hard to pronounce that one.
Dinosaur. So I can quickly go over these last ones here, Madam Chair, so if you want me to jump through. I've asked Mr. Johnson to put together a curriculum committee for 5th and 6th grade social studies. Mr. Mackey has sent a message out to parents to have them come in. We have 3 different curriculums that they're looking at. They're getting parent feedback. I'm gonna have Mr. Johnson come back and give his recommendation to the board. The next meeting for that. Board barbecue, May 16th is what we're thinking, if that works for everybody. Praying for warm weather. Local scholarships will be awarded first hour with the seniors on May 16th at 8:30. And then our work meeting on next Friday at 8:30 here in this room, and we will work things out.
Super. Okay. The floor will be open for a motion to adjourn.
Madam Chair, I so move.
There's a second.
Second that.
Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.